And now he's dead. It's about I gotta say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Being able to run as he shoots the moon to the fans here in Green Bay.
That is a disgusting act by Randy Moss.
This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Here we go. Down from the gun to the touchdown. It is caught.
Hey.
This is BS Sports.
Oh, good evening, folks, people. Today is one of those Tuesdays, one of those weeks where, you come back from a great weekend of sports. You got playoff baseball. You got hockey starting tonight. You got football, college football. Michigan State didn't have to play, so everything feels good. But there's one thing that I came away from this weekend, and it's just one question that it always burns in my mind every once in a while, and that is this: how about them Cowboys? Oh, them boys, Jerruh's boys, they showed their ass on national television, and I could not be happier to see it. It is a tradition for me, and I'm a Lions fan. I don't exactly have a whole lot of great tradition and history of winning and happiness and good thoughts, but I do not fool people into thinking such a thing. The Cowboys, on the other hand, they fool people. They fool people into thinking they're America's team. Everybody loves the Cowboys. Jerruh's boys, best team ever. They always get the views. And, well, they do typically get a lot of views, but that's probably in part because they get a lot of national games and they're, riding off the coattails of their history from teams in the 90s and the 70s. Well, let's not let facts and context get in the way of a narrative. They're America's team. You know what? If they're America's team, then America must not be that great of a place because they stink. They are flat out in a whole nother, the 49ers in a flat out whole other league compared to the Cowboys. It's like, every year I feel like this happens with the Cowboys, or every few years. Cowboys, they start off rock solid, right? They look really good. They got a top offense or a top defense. This year was top defense. Their quarterback, in this case, Dak, looking really good, feeling really good. Everything's great. Everything's going Cowboys. And then you look at their schedule and you're like, you played the Giants and the Jets and you lost to the Cardinals. And then you play, you didn't play really much of anybody going into this game. I mean, how do you know that you're going to be? And no, these are different. These Cowboys are going to be different. They're going to show you. And cut to, that's what they showed you. That's what they showed you. They showed you that just like every single year that you hear about Jerruh's boys, that they're, the talk of the town, the Cowboys are back, Micah Parsons, Dak Prescott, hoop-de-doop-de-doo, doesn't matter. You could change the names. It could be, Tony Romo and Dez Bryant. Doesn't matter. You change the names on the back of the uniforms. It's the same Cowboys that I've known for most of, if not my whole life, actually, because I have not seen a Cowboys Super Bowl run. I haven't seen a Cowboys playoff run because this team continually gets beaten by teams that are built better, that are managed better, that aren't just built upon this silly brand of being a football. It's like the Cowboys are like an impersonation of a good football team. They're not the 49ers. They're not the Eagles. They're not the Chiefs. Heck, they're not even the Lions. And look, the Lions will play them later on this year. I'm convinced the Lions will beat this team. And granted, we're going to be on the road. It's a tough environment. Obviously, a lot of Dallas Cowboys fans down in Arlington. It's going to be a tough environment. But I'm not particularly afraid of them. I don't think Dak is a reliable quarterback. And look, their defense is good and all, but didn't really look so good against the 49ers when they put 40 on their ass. I mean, like, it's just, I could talk day and night about the Cowboys, but to me, that was the big story about this week. I mean, I put it in the thumbnail, I put it in the title. This is, to me, this is like the rest of the NFL fandom's Christmas. It just is. You get to, even if your team stinks, if you're the Giants and your team stinks, if you're the Bears, if you're the Panthers, if you're one of these teams that are just so bad, you get at least this 1 week for now. You get this 1 week knowing that Jerruh's boys are a bunch of frauds, just like they are every single year. And that's not the only story going on in the NFL, because there are many things that went on this week. It was quite the week of embarrassment and sadness for most teams. The other story, and I'll get into the Lions later, because I want to get to these NFL stories first. We got the NFL on the thumbnail. I figure, why not? So, Patriots are no longer a football team. I'm convinced. I don't know if Bill Belichick is aware of this, but his football team and Mac Jones, hold on.
And now he's dead.
That's right, Steve. They're dead. They're a corpse. I look, sometimes I see on the little chyron when the game is on. And I was just sort of seeing, as it was, because they weren't really giving a whole lot of updates on this game as it was happening. But it was like, oh, the Saints are beating the Patriots. Okay, well, I had the Saints winning that game. I didn't really particularly trust. No. They didn't just beat the Patriots. They clobbered them. And you think, oh, well, the Saints are kind of a middle team. They're still kind of fighting for the playoffs. Maybe they beat them in like a kind of close, maybe defensive game, one of those elusive defense. No, actually, they put up 34. And hold on, I'll get you the score that the Patriots put up, and that's what it was. It was dial tone. It was Bailey Zappi coming into the game again. Poor McCorkle Jones, because he had a pretty good rookie year, and you thought, oh, great, here we go. Bill Belichick getting some unathletic quarterback. He's gonna come back and it's just not working. And look, if I'm New England, I feel like you should be getting the retirement, farewell tour ready for Bill, because if he's still here next year, it better be because he's doing a farewell tour. It better be, Miguel Cabrera hitting, 2 home runs all year. But, we're saying goodbye to Bill, and every team's giving him a present for, torturing them for the past decade or so. So I just, the Patriots to me are just so boring. They're they're like, they don't have an identity. They don't have a quarterback. They have, I couldn't tell you a player not named Mac Jones on that team. I couldn't. I have no idea. I think, they have Ezekiel Elliott, but the only reason they know him is because he's on the Cowboys. And that just goes against my argument about the Cowboys being America's team. Hey, Dylan, welcome to the chat. Welcome to the show. So I don't know what you do if you're the Patriots. I mean, here's the thing. If you want like the quickest remedy, you encourage Mr. Belichick to resign, retire, when in actuality it is, Bill, you're fired. But we're going to call it a mutual breakup, like when your friend, he's dating some girl and things aren't going well, and you can clearly see that it's sort of one-sided. And so he just said, no. It's a mutual breakup. But you could tell he's upset about it. That's what needs to happen with Bill Belichick and the Patriots. That they need to mutually cut off this relationship. And by mutually, I mean, Bill, your office has been cleared. Thank you for your service. You did well. And it does add fuel to the fire about the, Brady kind of building Belichick. And I don't necessarily think that's true. I just think the game has moved past Bill. And it's not, it's like that line in Moneyball, sometimes I'm going to totally butcher it, but sometimes you get called at 18 to stop playing the game. Sometimes you get stopped to call at stop. Words are hard. You get stopped at 38, but it's just, it's not good. It's not good. It's not good in New England. Pats are dead. I think Pats need a real GM. That's for sure. It's weird though, because like, here's the thing. And I think Patriots, like their front office, the way they're thinking about it is, look, and people forget about this because people have short-term memories, and I wasn't alive at this time, but outside of the Belichick Brady Patriots, Patriots were really, really bad. Like, as bad as any of the teams that people usually make fun of as far as not winning championships. Like, they really never had that player. They had fantastic uniforms. I mean, their uniforms and logo, top notch, but they were bad. And I think it's going to be weird to live in a world where you don't have Bill Belichick as a coach, you don't have Bill Belichick as a GM, and you can't be getting cute and trying to mimic that. You got to get a new young face to bring back the Patriots. And look, I think most football fans at this point are pretty much okay with the Patriots just sort of, sucking for a long time. I think most people will be fine with that. But ultimately, I think that, ownership does obviously care about the product on the field. Although, depending on how long they keep Belichick around, that starts to become a question. So, see about that. But I clicked on the wrong thing. Here we go. The other thing that I wanted to point out, and I hate to do it because there was, on the last Sean Payton video that I posted, some individual, I'll leave him nameless because I don't remember his name, but he commented, he was like, why is this guy always going after the Broncos? He's got something against Denver. It's like, no, I don't have anything against Denver. You're just awful. Like, I don't want to follow Denver, but every week they just find a new way to lose in embarrassing fashion. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to talk about the Texans Colts? Hold on, wait a minute. Here's the audience for that. I think there was one guy in there. I don't know. Maybe you might have heard that. But okay, I for one, I kind of saw this coming with the Broncos a little bit because Sean Payton. I think it was the moment when Sean Payton started talking crap about the old head coach, Nathaniel Hackett. That was the moment when I was like, something ain't right about this. I mean, like, everybody's talking, oh, Sean Payton, Super Bowl coach, Drew Brees, the Saints, all that stuff. And you're like, well, you look back at his legacy with the Saints. Well, he won the one Super Bowl, but that was Bounty Gate year. And then outside of that, well, he underperformed with hugely talented teams with, Drew Brees and Alvin Kamara and, all these Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I think he coached. He had all these guys and they didn't really do anything with those rosters. And you're like, okay, well, then he's retired. He's coming out of retirement. You're like, okay, well, that's a little concerning, right? Usually you retire, you're sort of out of it. You don't really want to be in it, but you come back and you're like, oh, maybe he's going to fix it. And no, this to me, and I don't know that people have really made this connection as much. I haven't seen it as, I feel like I'm the only one saying it. This is Mike Ditka on the Saints. This is like the same thing. You get some old head coach who largely underperformed as a head coach, had the one Super Bowl on a really loaded team, and you put him in complete control of a product, and the Broncos, believe it or not, managed to get worse than they were last year. I saw some stat, they are like the worst team on basically every defensive metric in terms of like yards per game, points per game. It is like you took a team who, as bad as they were last year, I think they finished at least with a top 10 defense, if not a top 5 defense. You took that team, which largely I think they pretty much have the same people on defense. Maybe they're injured. I'm not following them that deeply. But you took that team and you made them the worst defense ever. And now you're losing to the very team who you called the offseason champs, Sean Payton. You called their coach the worst coach ever. And you have managed to actually potentially beat him at his own game of being awful. And it's like, on the one hand, if Nathaniel Hackett was like a total jerk and like just awful human being, people couldn't stand him, you wouldn't really feel all that bad about Hackett getting revenge. But from all one can gather, Nathaniel Hackett seems like a very amiable person. Sean Payton, on the other hand, sounds like a real jackass. Like, he just sounds like a complete loser. Like, he's just like, he is exactly, he's like Mike Ditka. Like, I this was slightly before my time, but I believe it was Urinating Tree. Fantastic content creator. If you don't watch Urinating Tree, check him out. Believe he posted a video about Mike Ditka's reign with the Saints. It was more so surrounding about the whole, what was the name of the player? The running back, Ricky Williams, when they made that trade to go and get Ricky Williams, that whole thing. But it diagrams, it documents. I don't know, words are hard sometimes. It documents that whole saga of Mike Ditka and just not being a good coach. And I see the same things happening here with Sean Payton. Dylan, I agree. They are so hard to watch. The only thing that's good in the Broncos is Russ. And that's the thing, Dylan, is Russ isn't even all that good. Like, he lost them that game this past week. Like, and I don't want to just completely dunk on Russ. He's probably been one of the better parts of the team. But he's like, he can't win on his own. And the moment that their pass game starts to feel like, the moment you stop Russ, pretty much it's a coin flip. Who's going to win? Like, your only win is against the Bears team who has, me and the homeless guy on defense. Like, I don't know if the Broncos win another game. Now it is the NFL and blah, blah, blah. Things happen, but it's just, it's so bad in Denver. It is arguably the worst situation for an NFL team right now. Worse than Carolina, who have yet to win a game. Worse than Chicago, amazingly. Because, look, personally, the moment Sean Payton gave up 70, I said, you got to fire this guy. This guy is a total grifter. He's a joke. No competent head coach gives up 70 points, period. I don't care if you're on the road. I don't care if you're playing the Super Bowl champions. I don't care if that team is, you have a team of XFLers. You let a team put 70 on you, you're not a head coach in this league, period. End of story. Like, and they're going to keep him around because he's worth too much, I guess. They paid him too much, or I don't know. Like, if he's not, he could very well be fired before the end of the season. And which would be amazing that the Broncos would go 2 seasons in a row with firing a coach in the middle of the season. I don't know that this guy survives a year. And I think Broncos fans, I feel like they're not a big fan of Sean Payton at this point. Everything about this guy is just like, he is setting himself up for failure. He is talking crap about other teams. He clearly does not have a good relationship with Russell Wilson. He just looks like he's totally out of his league. He looks like he has no idea what to do with a team when the team is not loaded with talent. And frankly, that team has more talent on it than it actually looks like. You still have guys like Jerry Jeudy. You still have Patrick Surtain II. You still have some talented guys that you could maybe have a competent-looking record. But, wow. I mean, at this point, it's hard to trust the Broncos with anything because since Peyton Manning has left, they've done nothing but suck. They've done nothing but suck at the quarterback position. They've done nothing but suck coaching position. It's just bad. And it's not good. Needless to say, it's not good. Not good in Denver. We do have a few other stories, though, so I won't just continue to beat a dead horse. Funny. The Ravens and the Steelers. So, boy, that was one of the games that happened in the history of the NFL because, my goodness, I could not be more underwhelmed by the AFC North this year. You have the Bengals, who managed to actually win a game. Believe it or not, they did, in fact, beat a team that is trying to suck, almost certainly. And the Browns are the Browns. They were off this week, but, they're still, Deshaun Watson might be dead. I don't know. He might have taken the money and it doesn't want to, I'm gone. He's out of here. And the Steelers don't have an offense. And frankly, neither do the Ravens. I mean, you scored 10 points the whole game. You gave Lamar Jackson all that money. You got OBJ off the street. And you can't catch the football. You can't take advantage of the awful offense that Matt Canada and the Steelers are running. I look at the Ravens and I look at the Steelers, and it's like Spider-Man meme. It's like two teams trying to suck more. Now, the Steelers won, but I feel like everybody lost that game. But you know what it is? It is peak Steelers. It is the exact kind of Steelers win that I think many of us have become accustomed to. It is winning sloppily due to incredibly talented players on defense, namely TJ Watt. And pretty much outside of their defense, they probably don't win the game. I don't know if Kenny Pickett is any good, but I certainly know that offensive coordinator Matt Canada, I mean, how that guy still has a job is amazing. Amazing. Like, when you compare his offense to even a middling offense, you compare compare it to the Broncos offense. At least the Broncos can score 20 points. Like, and I just don't understand it. It's not for lack of talent on offense. You still have George Pickens. You still have, you have a young, at least interesting quarterback in Kenny Pickett, who seems to have a good connection with George Pickens. And I don't think Najee Harris is like the worst running back ever. And you just upgraded your offensive line this past draft, I believe, or at least a couple of drafts. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it with the Steelers, and I especially don't get it with the Ravens, because it just seems like Lamar. Now, granted, in this game, he was getting very unlucky. The guy had like perfect dime passes, and his receivers weren't catching it. But at the same time, it's like, Lamar, we need you to step up. Like, he wasn't running at all. Like, he was relying very heavily on his pass game, and it just wasn't all that good. So, look, I have this weird relationship with Lamar, okay? I need to break it down for the people, okay? Last year, I had Lamar Jackson in fantasy. I put him in 1 week because I was like, all right, Lamar, it's time. Because I was kind of putting him in and out because he was having rough go things. I'm like, all right, Lamar Jackson is back. He's going to play against, I don't even remember who he's playing against. It was supposed to be a really bad team. Lamar Jackson's going to go off. And he just pooped. He just pooped all over the field. And I have never forgiven Lamar since then. I did to him like Fredo in The Godfather 2.
You're nothing to me now.
That's what I did. Michael Corleone style. We just took him out on a boat. And while he was praying the rosary, we just shot him in the back of the head. That's what I did to Lamar. In fantasy. It wasn't, I didn't realize still alive. But yeah. So, but speaking of still alive, I want to break down the Lions game. Obviously, great win for us. Offense played better despite not having St. Brown and Gibbs on offense. You would have thought they were on the field because the offense was clicking. I mean, you scored 42 points, and the last touchdown you score, you basically had your backups in. I mean, it goes to show just how bad the Panthers are, but it also just goes to show this is arguably, I mean, I don't think it's even arguable at this point. This is one of the top offenses in the league. It's just, and it's not, flashy plays. It's not giant bombs to Tyreek Hill like the Dolphins got, but it's effective. It's marching down the field, eating away at the clock, running the football, tough, short Duncan dime passes that just connect with the receiver. You throw the ball to Josh Reynolds' way, probably going to catch that ball. Throw the ball to Sam Laporta, probably going to catch that ball. You hand it off to David Montgomery, he's going to pick up 5-6 yards. And that's all I can ask for this offense. Ben Johnson has got it humming, and hopefully St. Brown and Gibbs are back next week. And the other thing I wanted to point out about this game, I had a few other points, actually. So, J-Mo was back, but was he really? I mean, was he? Did anybody notice that he was back? Caught just 2 balls, and he only got 2 yards. The one highlight of his day, he got a block on a David Montgomery touchdown. Now, to be fair, it was a solid block. I'm not gonna front on it, but it's difficult because I feel like a lot of Lions fans are in this weird, like, you can't talk bad about J-Mo mode. But then if you talk a little bad about J-Mo, it's like, oh, you're just being a hater. You can't. Why are you being so impatient? He's a rookie, and it's like, well, actually, he's not technically a rookie. And at the same time, it's like, well, he was hurt coming in, didn't play a whole lot his actual rookie year. Then he gets the suspension. Then he gets hurt in the preseason. Now he's back earlier than expected, so he gets a little bit more time to get acclimated. But at a certain point, you think, well, without him, we have a top offense. We insert him in, basically makes no impact. What are we going to do with this guy? Obviously, we have control over him for a pretty decent amount of time. I don't know how long his rookie deal is, but we have him for at least the next couple of years. So presumably he's going to find a role, but at the same time, it's like, clearly we don't really need him as much as he probably needs us. I have no doubt that the talent is there. I saw some stat that it was like he had like 10 yards of separation on people. It was, maybe it wasn't that crazy. It was like he had like a lot of separation on guys. But the way I saw it was, well, I think a lot of teams are thinking, well, they're not going to throw to this guy. Like they clearly don't trust him as much as they trust Laporta or as much as they trust Amon-Ra or as much as hey, I feel like the team trusts Khalif Raymond more than they trust Jameson Williams. They ran the same trick play that they ran with Jameson last year, this year against the Packers, but with Khalif Raymond. And it was like, it basically went the same way. Now, ultimately, I think J-Mo has probably obviously got the bigger upside than Khalif. Khalif, where he's at now, is where he's going to be for the rest of his career, if not go down. And with J-Mo, it's just sort of, I hate to play the wait and see game because I feel like it's a little weak given that, at this, part of the reason he hasn't played is his own fault, right? With the gambling stuff. Now, I'm not saying it's like totally fair. I'm not saying that he, deserved what, but he broke the rules when in theory he should have known the rules. So what am I supposed to say about that? But I do still have some level of hope for him. And the reason I have hope for him is because the team seems to be behind him. The coach wants to work him in. Like they seem to want to get him involved. It's really just a matter of if he can actually take advantage of that involvement. If he's not dropping passes, if he gets a few touchdowns, if he has that kind of marquee game where you're like, okay, this guy is special. We can use him in trick plays. We can use him in deep threats. He's a walking potential touchdown anytime he gets the football kind of thing. We'll see about it. But the other point I wanted to mention, and this is just, I got a couple things. On the defensive end, we won the turnover battle, but I wasn't totally satisfied with the way that we played ultimately because we struggled to get off the field on third down. Bryce Young, not a great quarterback at this stage, but he was connecting with Adam Thielen. It seemed like every time he threw the ball at Thielen was open and he got some extra yards. Now, of course, they scored, 24 points, and frankly, some of that was garbage time points. They were never really in the game, especially by the half they were out of the game. And it's hard for me to be super upset about the defense, but you only had the one sack. You won the turnover battle, so I'm not going to be upset with that. You got, a couple of picks and a fumble. I'm not going to be upset about that, obviously. Same time, I get a little frightened when we give up the 3rd and 10s or the 3rd and 8s. You give up a 3rd and 4 or 3rd and 5 and below. I'm not going to yell and scream at you, but they converted a lot more third downs than I was comfortable with. Hopefully the defense can adjust a little bit. Baker Mayfield next week, not nearly as mobile as Bryce Young, but he's also kind of a pesky guy. He can get rid of the football quickly. So that pass rush is going to have to bring the pressure. It's going to have to get some sacks. Going to have to kill some drives there. That's the thing about sacks, man. It's not just like the stat padding stuff, right? Because generally speaking, it's hard to get teams to go 3 and out when you don't have a play for a loss or a penalty or anything like that. Teams have to be probably pretty bad or just have a terrible opening drive to just go 3 and out without any sort of, sack, incompletion on like 1st or 2nd and 10. It's usually pretty hard. You get a sack in there, you get a sack on, 2nd down, or you get a sack on, obviously you get a sack on 3rd down, you pretty much win the drive, but it's one of those things where it's hard for me to feel like super confident going into the Bucs. Same time, I just don't really know. Like, it's a road game. It's going to be a test. It's going to be a test for sure. It's been good for a while. I like them, but don't want them winning against my Bucs. Well, Dylan, that is where we will disagree, unfortunately. But I do think the Bucs have at least a decent team. They could fight for a playoff spot for sure. So if we lose, is it the end of the world? No, not necessarily. But this is a big test. I think for both teams. It's a big test for both teams. Hope the Lions come out on top, though. Speaking of coming out on top, I don't even know how to transition into that. I just realized I have another thing to talk about. Emmanuel Mosley died. Not in real life or anything. He's still with us. He tore his other ACL. You feel for him. He was one of the bigger acquisitions we had the offseason to help out that secondary. And it really sucks because bringing CJ Gardner-Johnson, bringing Emmanuel Mosley, and those two guys not going to be on the field to help out our secondary. So it's going to be relying on the Will Harrises. It's going to be relying on the Jerry Jacobs and the Kirby Josephs of the world. Now, Kirby Joseph is a good player. He's not, he's no CJ Gardner-Johnson, but he's a dog. He's a workhorse. He will play tough. Will Harris, he made some decent plays, and Jerry Jacobs has been actually really good this year for the Lions. But look, I do have some level of trust that we will come into that prepared, and obviously, unfortunate for Mosley. I don't know how long we have him signed. I don't really know what the situation is there, but you really feel for him because he's coming off an ACL injury, and just to re-aggravate it, not to re-aggravate, to get it on the other knee, it's just, you hate to see it for him. But actually speaking, coming out on top, talk a little college football here. So big story for my Spartans, who, believe it or not, do actually still have a football team. Sounds like Caton Hauser, I believe he's a freshman, or a sophomore. I don't know. He's one of Mel Tucker's illustrious recruits, so I'm sure he'll be great. Caton Hauser reportedly going to be starting against the Rutgers this Saturday. I feel absolutely nothing going into this game. I guess I'm happy to see that Noah Kim has finally sucked his way out of the role, because all that guy did was throw interceptions and look awful generally. My only fear with this is, and I told my dad about this, I was like, if there was a QB competition, that was pretty much what was well documented. And Noah Kim was the one who won it. So how bad does this other guy have to be if that guy won, right? So now I think it was just reported. I don't know that it's official, because these sorts of things aren't going to be official until basically game day. But I would be shocked if Noah Kim goes out there post bye week. Now if we don't win this game, we might not win another game. Like that's how dire it is. And I already don't know if we'll win another game. I think there's a very good chance Michigan State goes 2-10 this year. And thank the good Lord in heaven for the Lions, because if I had two bad football teams to talk about, this would be a very painful show to have to do. But yeah, so Michigan State is gonna go up against Rutgers this weekend with Caton Hauser. So you can I know the excitement is just welling up inside of me. I can hardly contain myself thinking about how many balls Caton Hauser is going to throw to the guys in red. It's wonderful. But that's about the only thing to look forward to as far as that goes. But we got to talk about this week in college football, because there was a lot of things that happened. Number one, Michigan and Georgia are the two best teams in football. They did not just win this week. They murdered. They committed mass murder. Georgia, 51-13 over Kentucky. Carson Beck threw for nearly 400 yards. Brock Bowers, another 100-yard receiving game. I mean, I did not anticipate Kentucky going to win this game. I thought maybe it could be a little close. But no. They put the smackdown on them. It's bad when they're able to bring in their backups against a conference opponent, right? Like it's one thing to do this sort of thing against, the University of the Blind and Lost and all that. But you did this against Kentucky, who at the time was a top 25 team. Like, and I don't even think Kentucky's like that bad, but just going to show you the separation between Georgia, who look very well could repeat. I don't know that they do, but this game certainly gave a lot of Georgia fans a lot more of a confidence boost. They probably feel a lot better about themselves given that dominance than they did, with the last couple of weeks of kind of, they look a little sloppy against South Carolina, and Auburn gave them a run for it. What they did to Kentucky, they said, you're worse than us. We're the better team. We're going to go, and we're just going to put the knife in you, and we're going to keep twisting it until you stop moving. That's what they did. And Michigan did the exact same thing. Let me pull up their box score real quick here. Michigan did the exact same thing to Minnesota in basically the same score. Michigan 52-10. Now, Michigan's I'm actually a little bit more impressed with because they did it on the road. Not to say that Minnesota is exactly, the hardest environment to play in, but look, they just utterly dominated. And it wasn't like, it wasn't, I don't think it was nearly as like the stat lines were nearly as crazy because, Michigan had a defensive touchdown. I believe it was like the second play of the game. They had a pick six. And JJ McCarthy threw for just 219 yards and only one touchdown. He threw the ball 20 times. I mean, they're obviously a run first team. Blake Corum, 9 carries for 69 yards and a tutty. 40-yard was his long. But it was a lot of production from a lot of different guys. And as much as I hate to say it as a State fan, Michigan has put together a unit. It is very familiar. It is very similar, I should say, to the Lions team this year. Is JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix? Is he Caleb Williams? No. But JJ McCarthy takes care of the football, hands it off to Blake Corum, and the run game takes over. They just utterly dominate their opponent. I mean, Michigan was winning this game, 24-10 at the half, and you're thinking, oh, okay, maybe this could be an interesting game. And then no, 21 unanswered in the third quarter, 28 unanswered total, as they just utterly shut down Minnesota in the second half. Just completely shut them down. And I think it solidifies those two teams' place as the two top teams in the country. And don't be shocked if that's the national championship right there. Not Michigan, Minnesota. If that was the national championship, then you should be shocked. Other thing, point out, Texas, in fact, is not back. They are very not back. Now, let me see if I can find this game. There it is. It was just the third one. How did I miss it? Texas. I did not mean to do that. I wanted to click. There we go. Texas played to be fair, they played a good game. Okay. They played a competitive game. They got into the red zone and they didn't know what to do. They were like, how do I finish drives? To be fair, look, Dylan Gabriel for Oklahoma, he passed for 285 yards. And Quinn Ewers was trying his darndest to win this game for his team. He passed for 346 yards, a touchdown, but 2 picks. And that will do it. You lose the turnover battle in a rivalry game. That's going to do it for sure. And again, this was a close game through and through. But Texas outscored Oklahoma just once in a quarter. And it was the last quarter when the game was, that was it. There's nothing more for them to do. And again, 34-30 win for Oklahoma. But I wouldn't be surprised if these two teams rematch in the Big 12 championship game. But it does add a wrinkle into this. So say Texas goes and wins, or rather, say Oklahoma loses maybe one game, but then they lose in the championship to Texas. Texas already has the one loss. It's going to be complicated for the playoffs. That's all I'm saying. There's a lot of teams that could make a case for the playoffs. If Oklahoma wins this conference, or there's any number of ways things could go weird. And we'll get into it more when the actual playoff rankings start coming in. But this was a good game. I had it on in the background, and it was just like, I was like, oh, Texas is losing. Oh, no, they're still in it. Oh, no, now Oklahoma's in. Oh, no. And I appreciate that. See, this is the beauty of college football, is the rivalries. And, of course, it's getting destroyed slowly by itself and TV networks. But, it was keeping track. Other story I wanted to point out. I actually got a couple more. So, Notre Dame decided, you know what? It was a good run. We murdered the Navy in Ireland. We had a good time. And from there, we're just gonna give up. And that they did. They lose to Louisville, who at the time was just the 25th ranked team in the country. But Louisville making their case potentially to make a run for the ACC, which again, to get into the playoffs, that's gonna have some playoff implications. If Louisville goes in and wins the ACC, if they beat Florida State in the ACC championship game, going to be hard to keep them out of the playoffs if they're undefeated. Like, it's going to be hard, which is going to be so weird because I always just think Louisville as, basketball, but no, they're putting something together there. Undefeated team, and they're going to be competing for the ACC, assuming that they keep this going. Looking at this game, though, I mean, they just totally shut down the run. Louisville did. Audric Estime, who was the big, workhorse on this Notre Dame offense, he had just 20 yards on 10 carries. And Sam Hartman, for his credit, passed for 254 yards, a couple of touchdowns, but he threw the ball to the other team 3 times. You're not going to win many games. Jake Plummer, meanwhile, doesn't even sound like a real human being. He passed for just 145 yards with 1 touchdown, and that was enough. Like, you get ran all over by Jerruh Jordan. I'm probably mispronouncing this. Ran for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. You just can't. Notre Dame, to me, like, look, they got a chance to. They got to get right game potentially. If they can this week, because this weekend has got some really good games, college football. They play USC this week, and if they can get right in that game, if they can pull off a big win against USC, maybe they kind of put themselves back together, Humpty Dumpty style. But you can't be blowing games like that. You can't do it. Just not going to work out. Finally, one more thing about this week. I got to talk about it because it was one of the games that I had on. LSU ends up winning against Missouri in a shootout of amazing proportions. So this game was actually incredibly entertaining. I mean, Jaden Daniels threw for 259 yards and 3 touchdowns. So you look at that and you're like, oh, wow, he probably was the best quarterback. No, he actually, he was, well, maybe by QBR he was, but by yardage he was not. Brady Cook of Missouri threw for 411 yards. 411 yards. 2 touchdowns and 2 picks, though. And meanwhile, you also had Jaden Daniels running for 130 yards with a rushing touchdown. And you had Logan Diggs running for 134 yards with a rushing touchdown. To me, LSU, maybe they don't have a defense. I think that's pretty much evident at this point. But they can certainly put something together on offense. And it becomes a little more complicated because LSU's got 2 losses, right? But if LSU goes in and they win the SEC, it's going to be very difficult to keep them out of the playoff, at least as a 4 seed, because they're going to have to beat Georgia in order to win the SEC. I don't know if they're going to beat Georgia, but look, they're not as bad, I think, as those last couple of weeks where they lost to Florida State, and then I think last week they lost. Yeah, they lost to Ole Miss last week. I think they still have a shot here to get themselves into the playoffs. And if they can continue to have offensive games like this, certainly it'll be on the table. That goes without saying. But wanted to also talk about the AP poll for this going into this week because we had some movement naturally. Of course, top 2, Michigan, Georgia, no complaints there. Ohio State, though, moves up into number 3. Now, this to me is weird. Ohio State beat Maryland last Saturday. It was an ugly game. I was a bit surprised that they moved up, but I don't know. I guess that's where the AP poll thinks. Florida State also moves up there in the top 4. They move to the number 4 spot. So obviously it's not exactly how the playoff rankings or how the playoff system works. In theory, it's supposed to be the top 4 teams, but at that point you're looking at a Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State playoff, which I don't think that's right. So I think the committee will have to do a little bit of work, but for now, those are your top 4 teams. You also have Oklahoma entering the top 5. They moved up 7 spots after their win over Texas, and I think it's pretty much deserved. It's a big upset win. It was in a neutral site, though. But look, they could very well still win the Big 12, so I think they deserve to be up in that ranking. Texas, on the other hand, drops. They dropped 6 spots. They're still in the top 10, though, which honestly, I think I'm okay with. Like, you lose 1 game in a rivalry game, neutral site. I'm not going to. Some people were like, oh, they shouldn't be in the top 10. Let's give it. If they lose another game, then yeah, they're out. But we'll leave them in there for now. USC drops a spot. They remain in the top 10, even though they won. So this is where this game, this Saturday against Notre Dame, is going to be big for both teams. USC is going to want a nice win against Notre Dame to vault themselves up, because it seems like they're always dropping slightly because they just have no defense, which, yeah, that's true. But this Notre Dame game, I think that very well could be the game of the week for me, at least. But Alabama does not move. You also have Louisville, obviously, the upset win over Notre Dame. They move up into the top 15, 11 spots. They are now 14 in the country. Washington State, that's right. Washington State lost against UCLA in an upset there. They dropped 6 spots. That's another team, Washington State. It's like the Pac-12, for their final hurrah, decided, oh, wait, we're actually a good football conference. They got so many great teams. You have UCLA, you have Washington State, you have Utah, you have Oregon State, you have all these great teams. You have Washington's up there, USC's up there. Colorado was fun for like 2 seconds. And now it's like, they're like, no, you know what? Actually, we don't want to be a conference anymore. So, yeah. Notre Dame drops 11 spots. They're now 21. LSU goes up a spot. And Miami, I didn't even point this out. Miami drops 8 spots. They remain in the top 25, but frankly, Mario Cristobal should be taken to a camp where he can, stand in a corner and think about what he just did, because that was pitiful. Pitiful. If you didn't watch the end of that Miami Georgia Tech game, I'm pretty sure Highlight haven't uploaded it, so you can just look up Miami Georgia Tech ending. I mean, you'll probably find a million videos of it. You had the win. All you had to do was need the ball. And I don't know, Mario Cristobal said, you know what? I'm going to do some drugs. And he's like Tony Montana and Scarface. He just put his face in the cocaine and said, you know what? Let's do it. Let's run the ball. They fumble it. They lose the game on a last second drive. Like, we'll see what happens. They play North Carolina. I don't know that they're going to do good in that game. Drake May is trying to up his draft possibility. So it's going to be a tough game for Miami. If they can come away and win that game, then maybe they might have some life. But Mario Cristobal, wow. That's embarrassing on many different levels. But before we wrap up college football, wanted to preview next week, or this week, I should say, in college football. So we got some pretty good games. And I've been talking about it. Here's what we're looking at on Saturday, okay? So you have, obviously, we already talked about Michigan State Rutgers. That's going to be the game of the week. You got, where is it? You got Oregon at Washington at 3:30. Bo Nix, Michael Penix, Pac-12, 3:30, ABC. That's going to be the game I'm looking out for as well, because that is a fantastic matchup between two guys probably competing for the Heisman and potentially competing for the Pac-12. That should be a really fun game. High octane offense. I don't know about how much defense will be in that game, but it should be a total barn burner, I think. You also have, where is it? I mean, hey, LSU Auburn, that could be a sneaky game. Auburn has shown a little bit of life here, and LSU is going to be fighting for their life. So we'll see if LSU can put on a show here. It's going to be at their home, so you'd think they'd be able to do it. Then, of course, at 7:30 on NBC, you got USC taking on Notre Dame on the road. That's going to be a really fun game for sure. Rivalry game. Caleb Williams, Notre Dame trying to stay alive and not continue to be the laughingstock that they seem to always be every year. I think that's going to be a great game. And then I mentioned in Miami, North Carolina, that could be an interesting game. Hey, Missouri, Kentucky. That could be something sneaky. Okay. Missouri wants to get themselves back in the top 25. That could be sneaky. That's at 7:30 on the SEC network. Other than that, hey, you want to stay up at 11 and watch San Diego State take on the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors? Yes, that is their real name. Maybe if you have no self-respect, then maybe you can watch that game. Apparently, it's on CBS Sports Network. If you watch that game, maybe you might need some help. And not like because like it's bad, it's going to necessarily be a bad game, but just like why? Why are you watching that game? Are you okay? Do you have another hobby? Do you have somewhere to be on Sunday potentially? Just anywhere. Just go anywhere. Just don't watch that game. Okay. But enough college football. Football is not the only thing that's going on. So I'd be remiss if I did not talk about the beginning of the NHL season. tonight. So Red Wings play their first game on Thursday on Hulu and ESPN Plus. They play the Devils. I had a few things that I want to talk about from each conference. So Eastern Conference remains probably the tougher conference. A couple things I want to point out here. Sabres and the Devils. Those are two teams that are looking to take a step forward. The Sabres trying to make the playoffs. I think they have like the longest playoff drought in the NHL right now. But they got a nice young team. They might have something going there. I don't know. Buffalo could be a really fun team this year, which is not good for me as a Wings fan because I want my Wings to take the step forward. I don't want the Sabres to take a step forward. Well, I suppose if they take a step forward and we take a step forward, who's going to be upset about that? The Devils as well. I really like the Devils young. Like they really took a step forward last year, and I think they need to move to the next step. They need to make that, maybe not necessarily make a cup run, but they need to go a little bit further in the playoffs. I think they certainly should be making the playoffs. Jack Hughes and them boys, they're a good team. They're a good team for sure. The other thing is the Pittsburgh Penguins. So they made that big trade to get Carlson. I believe it was a trade. Yeah, it was. I'm pretty sure it was a trade. And I look at them and I'm like, well, their team is aging, but Sidney Crosby remains to be one of the top players in the league regardless. But I don't feel great about the Penguins. They missed the playoffs last year after blowing games to two of the worst teams in hockey at that point. And I just don't know if they're going to get themselves back on track. I got them being a bit of a disappointing team this year. Or I don't know. Maybe they'll just figure it out, and I don't know. Mike Sullivan will keep his job for all in eternity, and Wings fans around the world will have to endure as Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins continue to play good hockey, which is painful. The other thing I wanted to point out is we got two Florida teams: Tampa Bay Lightning, Florida Panthers. Which team goes in the right direction? Florida Panthers just made the cup, won the one game, didn't do much else. Lightning made it to the playoffs, kind of fizzled out there. Maybe their run is sort of dwindling here, potentially. Still got an amazing core, still got a really solid team. But the question is, are they going to, remain that team? Are they going to remain that dominant playoff team? I think they probably will. Their talent is too good. Talent is too deep. But which team takes the greater step? I'm hoping it's Florida for their sake, because they were a really fun team in the playoffs last year. I mean, you sneak in and then you just go out and you make a playoff run, or you make a cup run. It was a fun year for the Florida Panthers, and I think you got to take that and you just got to bring that energy into the regular season and just keep playing good hockey. And those are two scary teams in the East for sure, which is crazy given that they're both from places where you can't even have ice outside. In the West, we got a few teams here. Can the Oilers get it right? The Oilers continue to have the two best teams in hockey, or the two best players in hockey in Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. And yet, they never do anything in the playoffs. They just continually find ways to lose series to teams that do two best players in hockey. And can they get it right? Because I love Connor McDavid. I love Draisaitl. I think those guys are so much fun to watch. And they just, please, Edmonton, please, get it right. I mean, add some talent around these guys or something. I don't know. Just stop losing in the playoffs. Stop being the underperforming, overly talented. You're turning into the Dodgers of hockey, where you're just the most talented team out. Two of the best players in the sport, and you lost to the Kraken or something. I don't even know who they lost to last year. Stars, maybe? I don't remember. Speaking of the Kraken, though, the Kraken take a step forward again this year. So the Kraken, really exciting team. I love that these expansion teams in the NHL just pretty much immediately out of the gate, ready to rock. The Kraken were a really fun team. Matty Beniers and the boys, come on. They were fun last year. I hope that they can take that step forward and move at the same pace that the Golden Knights did when they, right out of the gate, were a competitive hockey team. I think that the Kraken, hopefully they make the right stride, and it wasn't just sort of flash in the pan. They also, by the way, they have the best logo in National Hockey League. They just do the S with tentacle with the I. Come on, I love it. The NHL also has the best just logos in general of all the sports leagues. That goes without saying. And speaking of expansion teams, are the Golden Knights primed to repeat? Look, I think they pretty much kept the same sort of team. I believe Aiden Hall, their goalie, who was not their starting goalie at the beginning of the year, he sort of became a Vegas Golden Knights legend after that playoff run. But we'll see if it sticks around, if they were sort of not one-hit wonders, because I think Vegas has pretty much sealed themselves for the time being as being perennial playoff team. But we'll see. We'll see. The Knights are still as talented as they were last year. But again, you get a little bit of the craziness in the hockey playoffs where teams just go on runs, and you can't explain it. There's no science to it. Nobody knows how it happens, but things. And I didn't put it here, but also, how does Connor Bedard look with the Blackhawks? So Connor Bedard, probably the highest touted hockey prospect since Connor McDavid. No relation, obviously. What's it with Connor? Weird. So how does he look his rookie year? So McDavid, his rookie year, he was good, but he didn't play the full season. I believe he got hurt. Let me actually look up Connor McDavid's rookie season. So Connor McDavid in his rookie season played 45 games at 48 points, 16 goals, 32 assists. That's pretty good, right? Like that's pretty good. You come away with that. I mean, he was all rookie first team. He finished third in Calder voting. But assuming Connor Bedard is as talented as Connor McDavid is, you got to expect something like that. You got to expect a 40 to 50 point season at the minimum. At the minimum. At the maximum, this guy could be running away with Rookie of the Year, running away with Calder. So, yeah. I think hockey's going to be very exciting. I haven't looked at the scores of today's games or anything. I haven't checked it out. But also, Frozen Fury or whatever it's called on ESPN or ESPN2, that's going to be something I might have on during the shows when there's nothing else on, because that is such a cool little, it's basically Red Zone for hockey. That's a great way to get people involved in the sport and get people to figure, learn the players and learn the teams and all that. I think that's really, really great stuff that the NHL and ESPN are doing for sure. But final note before we get to the picks of the week in the NFL, got to talk about MLB postseason. Okay. So first of all, wild card was a massive dud. Every single team got swept. The Blue Jays got swept. The Rays got swept. The Brewers got swept. The Marlins got swept. It really makes me wonder, why did we even bother switching up the wild card into a wild card series as opposed to just the one game like we had before? And that's not to say that I don't like it. I do like it, but I just like, it seems like it was like, what's the point? We didn't even need it, apparently. But the other thing we got to talk about is the divisional series and how they're turning out. So right now, Texas Rangers, chance to sweep the Baltimore Orioles, which would be shocking, to say the least. Baltimore Orioles were the best team in baseball, or the best team in the American League, I should say. And they're one loss away here with nasty Nate Eovaldi on the mound from losing it all, from just having their season end that way. Would be so disappointing for such a really fun team. I've loved the Orioles. I've been kind of high on the Orioles. Like I've been like, okay, this is gonna be a good team for the last couple of years, and they finally moved in. They won their division, and they just kind of haven't showed up so far. I mean, look, they're fighting for their life right now, and I know it's a young team, it's an inexperienced team, but hey, frankly, Texas Rangers are not, well, they probably have more veterans, but they're also not, as a unit, experienced in playoff baseball. So, look, we'll say this is going to be a good game for sure. But the other series going on in the American League is, I had the wrong thing. Here we go. Is the the Astros and the Twins. So, the series, it looked like, oh, maybe we got some. So, first, Astros win 6-4. It's like, okay, it was a closer game. Twins kind of rallied a little bit near the end, but couldn't finish. And then game 2, Twins win on the road. You're like, oh, maybe the Twins had something. And then today, they just dropped the ball at home, get blown out 9-1. And tomorrow, your season could end tomorrow at your house. So, look, if you're Minnesota, you got to force that game 5. And honestly, nothing is better to me than playoff baseball elimination game. It's fun stuff for sure. But look, the Twins, they got to figure something out. And if they manage to do this, it really does give some level of hope to any team. Like, look, it's in the playoffs in baseball, in basketball, and in hockey. I think and frankly, in the NFL, it really is just like a match. You just get in. Just get in, and weird things happen. Like, worse teams have won World Series than the Minnesota Twins. The 2006 Cardinals won like 84 games, something like that. And look, I know it's the one example and, however many years of history, but still. The other series that is getting heated up, this Phillies-Braves series. So it started, Phillies, 3-0 win, shut out the Braves. Hadn't been shut out since like May 24th or something. And you're thinking, oh man, the Phillies are going to do it again. And then you go into game 2, Phillies up 4-0. You're like, oh my gosh, they're going to do it again. They're going to embarrass the Braves. The Braves are back to their 90s ways of having super loaded teams and not performing and the Braves just came back. Okay. Well, that's not good. So that series is wrapping up to be is going to be a really good one for sure. It is getting juicy. And look, it's going to be tough though for the Braves. They're going to go on the road the next couple of games. They've got to come away with a win. Well, obviously they got to come away with a win. But hey, if they manage to beat the Phillies on the road, if they manage to win these 2 games in a row, they're a scary team to win the World Series for sure. But same time, I think, well, it is the Braves, and they seem to always underperform after having monstrous regular seasons. But finally, talk about the divisional series. The Diamondbacks are taking it to the Dodgers. I mean, game 1, 11-2 blowout. Game 2, 4-2. Not a blowout, but they took control of that game early, and they just slowly but surely killed the Dodgers. They got a chance to sweep that game heading back to their home tomorrow night. And I would not be shocked if the Diamondbacks just do it again, because the Dodgers, seems like every year, go to the playoffs. What do? Nothing. That's exactly what they do. They do absolutely nothing. They just find a way to lose to a team that has no business beating them. And this would be the second year in a row, by the way, that the Dodgers would lose in the divisional series to a team in their division. Like that to me is just so, it's so pathetic. I just don't. I don't understand how a team can consistently find. It's like I think the Braves sometimes can be that way, but hey, at least I guess the Dodgers did win the World Series in 2020 in a shortened season, and blah blah blah. I'm not. It counts, but please, we all know. But that is it for playoff baseball talk. And I believe that is it for the show. But not so. We still have the picks to get to. So let me pull up. Here we go. Week 6. I got to pull Seth's picks up on the cellular telephone. Here we go. All right. We need some music. I believe we already did. Let's see. This was week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we're back to the top. Back to the top of the music. So let's run it back here. Absolutely. So, starting off Thursday night football. Broncos heading to the Chiefs. Seth is taking the Chiefs because, of course, why would you take anybody else? The Broncos stink. Their coach stinks. Their offense stinks. Their defense stinks. Why do these Thursday night games always? This is back-to-back Thursday night games. It's been a terrible game. This is a terrible match. I don't think this is going to be any different. I think this is going to be very ugly for the Broncos, because they're going to be on a national stage, shown off to the world in ugly. Then we got the Britain game, the final London game, I believe. The Ravens and the Titans. Seth is taking the Ravens. This is actually kind of a tough game, but I am going to go with the Ravens as well. Not because I think Lamar Jackson is like world beater, but because they're just so bad, and I can't trust them as far as I can throw them. So I have to believe that the Ravens have something of a bounce back game. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I do think that they end up beating the Titans. Up next, the Commanders heading to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Seth is going to take the Commanders in this game. That is surprising because I'm taking the Falcons. You know why? Because Desmond Ridder does not win at home. Or does not lose at home, I should say. Desmond Ridder is undefeated at home. Undefeated. Never lost. And I think he's going to continue that streak. I don't trust the Commanders at all. I believe they're coming off a bye. I don't know. No, they played. I don't even remember. I genuinely don't even remember. Did they win? Did they win? Oh, yeah, that's right. They played Thursday. I forgot. Yeah, they look terrible on Thursday. And if you lose to the Bears, how am I supposed to expect that you're going to beat the Falcons, who, at the very least, are, like, okay? Like, you lose to the terrible Bears? Come on, stop. All right. Vikings heading on the road to take on the Bears. Seth taking the Vikings in this one. You know, the Bears have gotten in a little bit of a hot streak right now, and the Vikings are going to be without Justin Jefferson. And that does alter things. I'm going to take the Bears. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the Chicago Bears. I think Justin Fields starting to feel it a little bit. I don't think he's good. He's probably convincing a lot of really dumb people that he's good. You know what? As far as I'm concerned, keep him for life because he stinks. And look, the Vikings have a terrible defense. The Bears have a terrible defense. But I trust the Bears, who are feeling good about themselves, coming off a long break after a nice win on Thursday, to go into Soldier Field and pick up a win. Up next, the Seahawks heading to Cincinnati, taking on the Bengals. Seth is taking the Bengals in this game. I am going to disagree. I'm going to take the Seahawks. Look, Joe Burrow, he had a nice game, all right? But he's clearly still not fully. He's not full of himself. He's not full of himself. He's not fully himself. The win over the Cardinals, to me, look, yeah, I figure I hope you could win that game. And maybe him and Jamar Chase start to get that connection, but I don't know. I just feel like the Seahawks are a much more feisty unit. I feel like Geno is continuing to be a competent quarterback, and it's going to be hard to beat Pete Carroll. I know it's going to be on the road for the Seahawks, but they're another team that's feasting for another little playoff run potentially. I'm going to take the Seahawks. Up next, the 49ers head to Cleveland to take on the Browns. Seth is taking the 49ers, and I will agree wholeheartedly. The 49ers are the best team in football right now. Hands down, no questions asked, period, end of story. They are absolutely electric. The Browns, on the other hand, they're coming off a bye, to be fair, but we didn't even know if Deshaun Watson's going to play, and frankly, even if he did play, I think they would still get destroyed. This is an absolutely deadly 49ers team, and I think they're going to show that even on the road, Brock Purdy is going to drop a dime on you. So, yeah, give me the 49ers. Saints at the Texans. Seth is taking the Texans. This is not an amazing matchup. Yeah, I will go with the Texans as well. CJ Stroud, he has continued to look pretty good. Still has not thrown an interception. No jinx or anything. Saints do have a decent defense, so it's going to be interesting to see how he plays up against them. I just can't trust the Saints. I know they put up 30-some on the Patriots, but that's the Patriots, and they're awful. So I don't believe in Derek Carr. I don't believe in that whole Saints operation right now. So give me the Texans. Colts heading to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Seth taking the Jaguars, and I will have to agree. Look, there could be a chance for a Minshew Mania revenge. Gardner Minshew is going to be playing this game because Anthony Richardson is slowly dying, as we see. Just slowly getting killed at every step of the way. And I hate to see it because he's been one of the more exciting rookie quarterbacks on top of C.J. Stroud. But they are just he's both killing himself and they are killing him. It's not a good scene. Meanwhile, the Jags came off a tough win over the Bills. I think they're feeling good about themselves. They're going to head back to Jacksonville. I think they're going to take a win here. They know how to beat the Colts in Jacksonville for sure. I remember there was some stat that was like the Jags had beaten them in their home like the last however many matchups. I don't remember what it was, but it's something pretty surprising. But yeah, give me the Jets. Panthers at the Dolphins. Oh, Carolina. I am so sorry. I am so sorry that this is a game you got to play. That's taking the Dolphins, and I will agree wholeheartedly. Wow, that is a lopsided matchup because the Panthers are so bad on defense. They don't have a particularly inspired offense, and the Dolphins are arguably, if not the greatest offense that we've seen so far. I think the Dolphins are going to just utterly destroy them, especially at their home. It's going to be a bloodbath. I don't need to talk about this anymore. Oh gosh, this is the ugliest game I've ever seen. Patriots Raiders. Seth is taking the Raiders. I am going to agree, and the reason I'm going to agree is sort of twofold. For one, the Raiders coming off a win. For two, the Patriots are an absolute disgusting franchise that they're awful. They're horrible. They look ugly. They play ugly. It's bad. And also, I don't know what the actual statistic is on this, but former Belichick coaches, like coordinators, stuff, they seem to always beat him. I don't know if that's totally true. I remember Matt Patricia, when he was the coach of the Lions, he beat Bill Belichick at home for no reason. Just to give Lions fans some level of hope, I guess. But yeah, so give me the Raiders. I don't know. Josh McDaniels, he's going to just somehow beat his former coach. I don't know. Things. Up next, the Lions heading on the road to take on the Buccaneers. Seth taking the Lions, and of course, I'm going to agree with that. Look, this is going to be a tough game for the Lions. Don't get it twisted. The Buccaneers are a solid team, potentially a playoff team. But Lions are top to bottom, I think, the better football team. They have a really great pass rush, and I don't know if Baker Mayfield is nearly as mobile as Bryce Young. I think if the Lions get to him, they get some sacks, it's going to be a long day for Tampa Bay, and that offense continues to hum. And Amon-Ra St. Brown potentially coming back, and Jahmyr Gibbs potentially coming back, and potentially even more of an involved role for Jameson Williams. I think it's a little too much in favor of the Lions. I don't really see the Buccaneers. Look, they're coming off the bye week though, so they're going to be well rested. They're going to be, in theory, well prepared. But no, I'm going to take the Lions in this game. Up next, the Cardinals heading to LA to take on the Rams. Seth is taking the Rams in this game. I will agree. Yeah, the Cardinals are they're a feisty team, but the Rams, they got Stafford. They got Cooper Kupp back. They still got Puka Nacua, Pikachu, as I like to call him, because I don't know. I know it's some sort of, I think he's like Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, Puka Nacua. But I don't know. His name sounds like Pikachu to me. So Pikachu and Matthew Stafford, they got a connection. Cooper Kupp obviously has a connection with Matthew Stafford. And I don't know that the Cardinals really have enough that they could, pull up a win here. They're a sneaky team, but not that sneaky. Up next, the Eagles heading to New York, New Jersey to take on the Jets. Jets. And Seth is taking the Eagles, and I will agree. Because, look, the Jets have a really good defense, and the Eagles look a little sloppy, but they're still undefeated, and the Jets are still the Jets. So, yeah, I don't anticipate them winning this game. Up next, we have the battle for New York State. The Giants taking on the Bills in Buffalo. This is going to be a bloodbath, and Seth better have taken the Bills, and he did. Good for him, because I am also taking the Bills. This game is going to be ugly. This is going to be Josh Allen throwing for 1 billion yards. This is the Josh Allen for MVP game, I think. This is going to be the game where they just utterly annihilate the Giants. And this will be the second time the Giants are on Sunday Night Football because, I don't know, I guess the NFL gambled a lot and they lost. It's really the second year in a row where the NFL has gambled on a team to be good in primetime games and just utterly failed. But yeah, Bills, they're going to win this game by 1,000. I'm not going to think about it anymore. Monday night, though, we got an interesting matchup. We got the Cowboys heading to L.A., take on the Los Angeles Chargers of San Diego. Seth's Los Angeles Chargers of San Diego. He's going to take the Chargers in this one, obviously. And I am going to agree, actually. As dumb as Brandon Staley is, Mike McCarthy is at least like only a little bit smarter. Like maybe if Brandon Staley is like a F student, like Mike McCarthy's like a C minus student, I don't know. I feel like the Chargers are going to win this one. They're coming off their bye. I think they've won a couple in a row at this point. Trying to keep their season alive. Cowboys also trying to keep their season alive, and it's going to be probably mostly Cowboys fans of that game because there are no Chargers fans. They don't actually exist. They're a figment of your imagination. So, yeah, I'm still going to take the Chargers, though, because I have Justin Herbert in fantasy. I need this guy to just go off. That would be nice. And also, I just think that Chargers are actually a little bit better than maybe their record indicates, but we'll see about that. So, to round out the order, round out the picks. Broncos, Chiefs, we have both got the Chiefs. Ravens, Titans, we both take the Ravens. Commanders, Falcons, Seth has taken the Commanders. I am taking the Falcons. Vikings, Bears, Seth is taking the Vikings. I am taking the Bears. Seahawks, Bengals, Seth is taking the Bengals. I am taking the Seahawks. 49ers, Browns, we both take the 49ers. Saints, Texans, we both take the Texans. Colts, Jaguars, we both take the Jaguars. Panthers, Dolphins, we both take the Dolphins. Patriots, Raiders, we both take the Raiders. Lions, Buccaneers, we both take the Lions. Cardinals, Rams, we both take the Rams. Eagles, Jets, we both take the Eagles. Giants, Bills, we both take the Bills. And Cowboys, Chargers, we both take Chargers. And that is the picks for this week. All right. So with that is where we will wrap up the show for tonight. Looking forward to a good week of football and sports, and hopefully we'll get to talk a little bit more stuff. Apparently the Rangers just took a lead, by the way. It's 1-0 Texas. I think Corey Seager just hit a bomb. So not looking good for the Baltimore Orioles at the start of things. So we'll talk about it next week when we have a little bit more of an idea of what the ALCS will look like, because I think by then the ALCS and NLCS should have been decided. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's October. It's the best time in all sports. It's fantastic. I love it so much. So with that, go ahead and say adios to the people. If you came out, showed up, talked a little bit, appreciate it. And I will, I'll definitely be broadcasting the Lions game. So that is going to be a Sunday at, I believe, 4:25. It's going to be a slightly later Sunday game than we normally do, but that game got flexed, so it's going to be a 4:25 start. But I'll be broadcasting that game. So if you missed out on any of the show this week, be sure to go and watch that live reaction this Sunday. And then we'll be back again next week on Tuesday evening again. So if you enjoyed, hit the subscribe, hit the like, and I'll see you guys next week. All right. Have a good night, everybody. See you later. Goodbye.